the good life lets you hide all the sadness you feel. You won't.
Hey everybody, welcome to my kitchen. We are going to make focaccia bread. Focaccia bread is, in my opinion, truly Italian bread. It is a form of bread that basically can be used at any time during the day. It's my favorite bread. It's got olive oil in it. It's often made with a little extra salt, which I like. You can put all different types of toppings on there. Caramelized onion, which is what we're going to make. You can put olives. You can put olives in the dough, which I've seen it with. Rosemary is a traditional way to do it. You can have it for breakfast, where you could spread different types of jams and so forth, or preserves on it. You can have it for obviously a dinner, which is kind of a side dish. You can have it for lunch and make a sandwich out of it. A panini, which is great. As it hardens or gets stale, you cut it up and you make croutons out of it. It's absolutely great. So focaccia bread is one of my favorite. It's so easy to make. Bread is so much fun to make. I used to make bread down the restaurant with my dad. I used to make pizza dough. I used to make focaccia bread with my grandmother. So certainly something fun to make, really easy. So I want to show you how to do it. All right, so what we have here is 5 cups of flour. Now the flour I typically use is an organic, unbleached, unenriched, just organic flour, okay? And it's a fine grind is what you want. So that's perfect. So I got 5 cups of that. I've got about 1.5 cups to 1 3/4 cups of water in here. And this is the warm water, all right? And when I say warm, I've read a lot of recipes. They start giving temperatures and so forth. And what we want to do is we want the water warm, but we don't want it cold, and we don't want it hot. If it's too hot, it's going to kill the yeast. If it's too cold, it won't activate the yeast. And what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 packets of the instant yeast, okay? You're going to pop those in there, and you're just going to stir it up. Yeast is what's going to allow the bread to ferment. So when you look at bread, you see it how it has all those holes in there. That's cool. That's the yeast. It essentially grows. It breaks down sugars within the bread and gives off basically air, if you will. In this case, carbon dioxide. And we want to feed the yeast. The yeast loves sugar. Don't we all love sugar? So I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of sugar right in there. And that just gets this guy going. And if you've ever been around anything that ferments, for example, like beer, and you can smell like a fresh bread, it has that kind of that fermented hint to it, if you will. So I'm going to stir that up. And that doesn't really even need to set aside for that long. But that's going to set aside for a few minutes, and you're going to see it start to get foamy. And as it gets foamy, the yeast is starting to get active, which is really cool, okay? And then what we have here is about a teaspoon and a half of salt, okay? So I'm going to mix the salt right in there, which is beautiful. And I'm just going to mix the salt in the flour. Now this is going to make a mess, and it's kind of cool, but it's fun to play. Every time I made pasta dough with my grandmother or even my dad when I was a kid, pizza dough, bread, I would always start to play with it because it's like Play-Doh. It's like silly putty. So of course you're going to start playing with it. And then, my father would tolerate that, or my grandmother would tolerate that for a few minutes. And then I'd start to get yelled at. Basta, I used to get, which means stop, enough. So mix that right up. And that will ensure that we're getting a beautiful mix. Now we're going to want some olive oil in here. You're going to want about 1/2 cup of olive oil in the dough itself. And again, focaccia bread is traditionally made with olive oil, not only in it, but on top of it. So it's beautiful. What's nice about this, essentially you're making a fresh organic bread. It doesn't have any preservatives, doesn't have any garbage or crap, or a lot of the other stuff. And that's the beauty of making things. And sometimes people say, geez, it takes so long to make stuff you don't have time. And and I get that, and there's some truth to that. But if you start thinking about how much time it takes you to go grocery shopping and grab stuff and pay for it and put it in the refrigerator, sometimes you find, hey, it's a lot cheaper to make some of this stuff yourself. And not only that, you can control what you put in there so you can make it better and healthier for you, which is what ultimately is most important. So we're going to take about 1/2 cup of olive oil, okay? And then we've got our wet mixture. So I'm going to take the 1/2 cup of olive oil, I'm going to put it right on top. How do you know it's a 1/2 cup? Because I've been doing it forever, so that's how I know it's 1/2 cup, okay? And I'm just going to kind of mix that in just a touch. And then what I'm going to do is I've got my yeast in here, right? I've already got my salt in there. And then I'm going to pour my water and yeast right on top, right? And they got nice and foamy. And what you're going to basically do is just work it. You're going to work it for a few minutes. So I like that flat. See, the bottom of this wooden spatula is flat. Now we may need more flour, or you might need a little bit more water, right? You don't know. So try to get it so it's not, if you will, wet, because you're going to lay it out on the ground and you're going to work it. And then you're going to let it rise. And you're going to let it rise for about 2 hours. And that's when all those little bubbles, all those yeast get in there and they start working their magic. And then you're going to punch it down, and then you're going to refrigerate it. And what that allows it to do is it still allows it to ferment, so it changes the flavor, so it breaks down stuff inside of it, but it doesn't rise. Then you're going to pull it out, you're going to put it in your baking sheet, you're going to let it go to room temperature first, then you're going to put it in your baking sheet, and then you're going to let it rise again. Then you're going to punch it down with your fingers, you're going to put olive oil, you're going to put salt, you're going to put rosemary. Oh my God, it tastes so good. It's delicious. Okay, now you got your baker's knife. Remember, one of my favorite tools, especially if you're making doughs. Okay, so that's about as good as I can get it, I think, in there. Now this seems a little bit wet, so I'm going to probably have to put some more flour on there. So let me, and what you want to do here is you want to put, let me open up my workspace here a little bit. You're going to put some flour right on the board here, okay, or in this case on the counter. Ooh, that's good. Love it. Okay? It tastes good. Oh my God. Love it. And then you're just going to work it. And same thing with all doughs. What it's going to do is you want to make sure it's mixed and everything's incorporated. So part of resting or letting something set, it gets to absorb the moisture within the wheat itself or within the flour. Gluten starts to go. See how nice that dough is? It's perfect. Nice and soft. And you work it 5 minutes. You don't want to get it too tough, but you want it to develop its own foundation. And this is great. This brings me, every time I do this, it brings me right back to my working with my dad. And I'm a little bit of a messy cook, especially when it comes to flour. Still am, so I always would be amazed at people, they get out of the kitchen, they'd be so clean and neat. I'm like, how the hell did you do that? You know? But I get into it, man, that's why. So you just work that, and that's perfect. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a bowl, and now I got the sugar in there, right? So the sugar is really there to activate the yeast. Give the yeast something to eat off of. And then, even though there's carbs in there, some recipes don't call for sugar. And then, again, the flour, and it's still just a little bit tacky, so I'm still gonna incorporate a little bit more flour, not a lot. It's almost there. Again, I don't want it wet. And if it feels a little bit wet to you, see, it's a nice dough to work. Nice and soft. And just keep kind of pulling it back. See, you pull it back and then push your other hand, fold it in. Pull it back, fold it in. Pull it back, fold it in. And you can start to feel the moisture once you do it. And what's nice about this is you can slowly incorporate the flour, if you don't know how much you want to put in there, until you got enough. You're not really adding it unless you need it. And it smells great. It feels great. It's going to make a beautiful bread. So how easy is that? How long does that take, right? Get a good workout. I don't know if you guys noticed my triceps in there. I got some good definition on the tris. But, you know, you go to Italy and you look at some of the rich foods they eat and all the stuff they do, but you forget they're out there farming olive trees and they got their own garden, they're farming their olive trees. I mean, how often I go to these towns, most of the people don't even have cars. So they're walking in the village, the grocery store is right up the street. Everything they need is within walking distance of their house. And they live small, you know. Small homes, small kitchens. The biggest room in the house is usually the dining room. So they usually have a big table. And it's all, you know, especially old Italy, it's all about family, which is so nice. So there you go. So that's our flour. That's perfect. It's got a nice, see, it's not too wet. And see how it's got some shape to it? It's got its own foundation to it. And you watch my my great uncle Vito. He was 93, 94 years old. I went to his house, which he had. When you walked in, it was first it was a gathering of his buddies. It was a bar, so it was pinochle, and he was, like I said, in his 90s. And then in the next room, it was his bakery, and he had a wide open space of breads and all the different types of baskets, and he had a hole in the wall, and that was his oven, which was so amazing, which he got going in the morning, and he just tended it all day long. And he would bake bread, and he would work this at 90-something years old. And then you go in the other room, and he was a butcher, so he had salami. He was known for his salami all over the village, which was northern Italy. Great, what a great guy he was. Couldn't have been nicer. He gave us some bread and salami and some homemade cheese. Oh, that's beautiful. I always like to taste that. Oh, absolutely perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a bowl. I'm going to put some olive oil in the bowl. I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to put a cover over the top of it. That's it. I'm going to let it set for about 3 hours, ideally. And it'll double in size. And when it doubles in size, like I said, you're going to beat it. You're going to beat it down a little bit, so you take out most of the air out, and it makes all the bubbles smaller. That's why you do it that way. And you put it in the refrigerator. I got out of breath working that dough, didn't I? You put it in the refrigerator. You're going to pull it back out, let it get to room temperature again. It's going to almost double in size again, and then we're going to put it in the oven. It's going to be great. All right, so let me get a bowl right here. There's my bowl, right? All I'm going to do is put a little olive oil in it, and the only reason I do that is so it doesn't stick. I'm going to take my dough. Look how beautiful that is. Isn't that beautiful? Look how well incorporated everything is. Just roll it up underneath like itself. Look at that. I almost don't even want to put it in there, right? I could eat it just like that. It tastes so good. I always like to cover it all in oil because I don't want there to be a skin to develop. Now that's going to set, and you're going to leave that in room temperature, and that puppy's going to rise, let me tell you. So all I'm going to do is grab a plate, right? I'm going to take a plate. How easy is that? Put it over the top. Set that off to the side. 3 hours from now, I mean, I don't even know how long that took. It probably took 7 minutes, right? Make your own bread, which tastes absolutely delicious. So what we'll do is we'll tune back in 3. We'll pound that down. Then after we do that, I'll refrigerate it. I'll show you exactly what it's going to look like. And then tomorrow, when I pull it out of the refrigerator, and I already got one going, obviously, then what I'll do is show you how to put it in the oven, put some rosemary on it, some salt, onion, caramelized onion. It's going to be unbelievable. Molto buono. Fantastic. I'll talk to you guys in a few minutes. Okay, guys, it's been about 2.5 hours or so, 3 hours. So that's our dough right there, double in size, right? So what we're going to do now, there's a couple different ways you can do it. We're going to push it down right now, and then we're going to wrap it up, and we're going to put it in the refrigerator, and we're going to let it set overnight. Then the next day, what we're going to do is we're going to pull it out, and we're going to spread it out across the pan. So I've already done one for you. So here it is right here. So there it is, right? So you're going to pull that out on a pan, and then you're going to let that rise, and it'll double in size. So this is about half of where it needs to be. It's only been out of the refrigerator for a little while. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to poke my fingers in it, rub it with olive oil, salt, coarse salt typically or traditionally, and then some rosemary. I'm going to bake it in the oven at 450 degrees minimum. You'll see I've got a thermometer in there, which makes it beautiful. And then you're going to leave it in there about 10, no more than 15 minutes. It should brown up, cook all the way through. Traditionally, on most ovens, it's going to be hotter on the bottom. So you're going to want to put your burners, or even on electric, are going to be hot on the bottom. So put it on the bottom, keep an eye on it. Always try to keep it in the center. Like I said, about 15 minutes, it's going to come out. Oh my God, it's going to be beautiful. And it's an accent, really, or side dish to any meal. You can make bruschetta, you can make anything you want out of it. So what I'm going to do here, like I said, so look how fun that is, right? I'm going to push that down. And what you're doing is you're squeezing that air out of it, and then you're going to let the yeast go at it again, okay? And oh, look how, remember that dough we made a little while ago? Look how beautiful that is, right? It's got that beautiful smell. I love to, I'm going to taste it one more time. Oh yeah, it's really good. So let that rest. We're going to cook that out. I'll talk to you guys in a little bit. It's going to be awesome. All right, guys, I want to show you how to make a great topping for the focaccia bread. I've got Onion's going caramelized. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a full onion, you're going to slice it so the onion rings are longer, and then cut it in half. And then you're going to put about a 1/4 cup olive oil. I like using a white porcelain coated pan just because what you can do is you can kind of get a good gauge of how dark the onions are getting. If you use a cast iron bottom, sometimes it's tougher. But so we're caramelizing these. It's going to take about 20 minutes. And what that means is you're going to bring the sugars out. You're going to make them like caramel. So you're going to just continually bring out the sugars, and you're going to cook them down to where they're nice golden brown. But they're not frying. They're just constantly being cooked down, okay? So let's come on over here. All right, so here's the focaccia bread. This is after its second rising, so I don't want to put my fingers in there yet, but what I do want to make is a topping. So I've got some rosemary, which is traditional. So I'm going to take about half of that rosemary in there that I'm going to put in, okay? And I want to leave a little bit for the rough top that I'm going to put on after, okay? And then I'm going to take some garlic, right? So pump a bunch of garlic in there. I'm going to take some salt. Now we want to be generous on our salt. I like to put it all in my mortar and pestle at once because the salt will act as an abrasive. So good stuff. A little pepper. Look at that, huh? Imagine those ladies way back when on a piece of granite on the side of on a hill that they used to use. So, and then nothing's better than mortar and pestle. What that's going to do, you know, it's a lot different than a food processor. So when you look at it, and science has shown, when you smash the, let's say in this case, rosemary, what you're really doing is you're breaking apart the cell right down to the cellular level. And you can't do that with a food processor. The food processor is going to cut it, but it's not going to smush it or smash it. And what's really neat is mortar and pestle. When you hear pesto, it actually from a Latin and Italian word, which means to pound. So you're actually pounding. Now I don't want to add the olive oil yet, but you're actually pounding flavors. Oh my God, that smells awesome. So I'm going to make a paste, right? And don't get nervous. So you're going to muddle it, right? And you want to just keep smashing. This is good if you're pissed off, angry. Maybe I can't say that. If you're really angry at somebody, maybe you just got into it with a loved one, you just grab a little mortar and pestle and start making some pesto. And all of a sudden, that and a little white wine, you're going to have a good afternoon. It just totally makes everything good. All right, so we're rocking and rolling. Now that's a paste, and now we're going to add a generous amount of olive oil. In this case, you know, I say a 1/4 cup. It's going to be a little bit more than that. And then you're going to mix it. And that's it. So, see? There's already salt in there. And mix that puppy up. I get into physical cooking. You notice that? Making pasta, Joe. It's a good way to say it. No, hold on a second. Oh my God. I'm telling you. There's no way that you can get something that good out of a... There's no way you can get something that good out of a food processor. I'm just telling you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drizzle that all over the top. Okay? And I like to use a spatula and a mortar and pestle because I want to get everything out of there. If you lay it on its side and it's covered with olive oil, this thing weighs about 20 pounds. So it's a great way to crack your granite countertop. Okay, so I got everything out. I'm going to spread that, right? And then you're just going to spread it over the top of the focaccia bread, okay? And then you want to poke your holes in last because what you want to do is you want to essentially push the flavor into. So you break a little bit of the skin, the surface, okay? And it's kind of fun. See how it raised? So what's going to happen is all that gooey oil and salt is going to work its way right into the bread, okay? Look at that. See, missed a few spots. Nobody makes focaccia bread better than me. Oh my God. Oh my God. So what we'll do is this. I'm going to throw in about halfway with my onions. The worry there is sometimes if you put everything on top and this thing really starts to crank, you'll burn it. Okay, so you want to. That's perfect, right? The oil on top. I'm going to put that in. That's about 500 degrees. So let me tell you, that puppy is hot. There is no forgiveness. You touch the side of that. So I'm going to let that go. These are almost done. About 10 minutes. Good way to not burn your bread. Okay, I'm going to put that on for about 15 minutes. Maybe a little bit less. Say 10 minutes, 12 minutes. And I'm going to let that go. Then what I'm going to do, it won't be done yet. Then I'm going to throw some stuff on top, let it go another 5 or 6 minutes. Bread's going to be absolutely perfect. And then we get a beautiful accent to what we're making. This will be for another video, but I just want to show you what I made over here. I got some basil tomato sauce. I mean, can you smell that right there? Fresh basil. Oh my God, and that's going to go with our homemade raviolis. Unbelievable. All right, I'll talk to you guys in a few minutes. You guys ready? Oh boy, this is halfway through. My timer just went off. I gotta be careful this thing doesn't slide out. But see how it's just starting to get a crust on it? Oh my God. So now I've got the rosemary, right? So I'm gonna just put that on top as a larger. And now that's gonna cook, but that's on top, so I don't wanna burn it. And I don't want it to, there it goes, okay? Then, what we're gonna do, how about that, a little caramelized onion, right, I was telling you about? So, just spread a little bit of that on top. Whoop. And throw it on the floor too, that's good. They're so good, the floor will love it. That's what happens, I get so damn excited. Spread them out a little bit. It's so hot, heat. I gotta tell you, the smell is just unbelievable. What's the camera person think? Does it smell good? Mm-hmm. All right, so let's pop that puppy back in. Let's push it all the way to the back. Now, so you don't waste time, set your timer 10 minutes, okay? That way you know you don't ever want to burn it, you don't want to waste your time. Well, with 10 minutes, we'll pull that puppy out. I'll show you how to cut it up. Unbelievable. And I want to thank you guys for giving me a little time in your life to share a little bit of my life with you and some history with you and some traditions from my family and my grandmother Caroline. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for joining me in Cooking Italian with Joe. I will talk to you guys next week.